Hello there, my name is George Hurst. In this video, we will make a steampunk style gauntlet with a dragon skin design carved into the leather. We will also color it to make it look like a real dragon skin. To begin the process, I have traced my pattern onto some tracing film from the pattern that's available for this project. And now I will dampen my leather with water. Now I have selected a 6 to 7 ounce vegetable tanned cowhide of good quality. And I will dampen it thoroughly so that I get water pretty much down into the leather, but not to the point where it gets soggy. And then we will set it aside for a few minutes until the water is able to penetrate and the leather will be ready to start our process. I have allowed my water to penetrate, and now I can trace my design onto the leather, and I will place my pattern, as you can see, and then with some tape I will tape it into place. This is so that I can lift it up from time to time to check my progress. So now, with the stylus, I will trace all the way around the outside of my pattern. When I have straight lines, it's a good idea to use a ruler or a straight edge to do that. I will also mark all of the holes for punching. And I will check to see, and yes, I'm getting a nice look to my tracing, so I can now continue. And now, as you can see, I have done all my outline tracing and I have marked all of my holes. I will now trace the scales. And our pattern looks great, so we're now ready to cut. I'm going to cut my leather now with a angled utility knife and a nice sharp blade. And of course, to make life easier, I always like to use a straight edge whenever I can. Now, I will very carefully cut this curve, and we will continue cutting all the way around. Where I have a real sharp rounded corner, I'm going to use a round drive punch and punch a hole there. Then I will use my straight edge and my knife to cut up to the end. This makes for a much cleaner and nicer cut when you have an inside curve. Next, we will punch the holes in our leather. Now, on this tab, we'll be putting some durable snaps. So we need a 1/8 inch punch, and then along this edge, we're going to do decorative rivets. So we will punch with a 1/8 or a 1/8 inch punch as well. Please note that I am using a professional cutting board. This makes it very easy for punching and for cutting. Now over here, where we're going to do some lacing, we will use a 1/4 inch punch because we're going to be using a 1/4 inch eyelet in here. So we will punch those with the 1/4 inch punch. Now that we have done all our cutting and punching, we can start the tooling process, and I'll start by using my swivel knife to cut the borders. After I have cut my borders, now I will use the swivel knife and cut all the lines for the scales. Now that we have completed all of our swivel knife cutting, we can start with the beveling. I'm going to use a wide beveler for this, and I'm using a checkered one. So I'll first bevel all of the border lines. After we have finished beveling all around the border, we will begin beveling the scales. Now I'm using the same beveler that I used to do the border. It's a rather straight line, so it's best to use a larger beveler. Now please note, as I go around each one, the scale stands out. Now as we bevel the next row, beveling on the outside of each scale, then you will notice that the scales above overlap the next row of scales. Now we will continue this beveling all the way down, or as far as you choose to go. This is a lot of beveling, and you may need to do several rows at a time. Please note the difference the beveling makes between the ones we have done here and the ones that we have not yet beveled. It makes them stand out and gives you a realistic look. We'll now do some more work to the scales to show you how to make them even look better. Next, I'm going to create a vein in each of these scales, and I'm going to do it with the two bevelers that have diagonal lines. There's a 202 left and a 202 right. So what we will do, we will very carefully stamp lightly, as you can see, to create a line right down through the side of the middle, or to one side of the middle. And I will use the other one, and I will come down the other side of each of these veins. We get the lines to go out and down on each side. Now we will continue this all the way down. After I have completed doing the stem in the middle of each of these scales, I will take a modeling tool and kind of create a ridge along the edge of each one, and then I'll texture it inside a little bit in toward the stem in the middle. And for each of those, then I will come around and do the same thing on the other side. This will show up a lot better after when we do our coloring and finishing. We'll use some techniques that will make this stand out even better. But for now, we will do this to all these leaves, or all these scales. And now, as you can see, our scales look pretty good now. To get some more separation between them, I'm going to use a number A888 background tool, and I will put the point down in here between the separations and just lightly put some texture in there and fade it out towards the outside. And this will give us more separation between the scales, and it will even look a lot better when we apply our finish to it. This is how our piece looks after we have finished the tooling.